Hey guys, Veebat here with another V-Plays, and we're taking out the Typhoon, a Tier 7 British multi-role. We've done this before, but we're just about on the cusp of specialization. Actually made a realization that apparently the British multi-roles, you don't have to carry the rockets when you specialize them. You can opt for the bombs, so I decided to throw the bombs back on this aircraft. I do like them better, they reload in 60 seconds, and I think they're more consistent. Now, I want you to watch this battle as it plays out, and I'm going to spoiler right up front. This is going to be a loss. But let's evaluate what we did here and what we could have done better. The first thing we did is we ended up F2ing the mine because while we can do some damage there, we're not really going to be able to flip that all by ourselves. So I decided my best place to put my gravity of effort was going to be the command center, while F2ing the mine to hopefully be able to get some assistance over there. As we head into the command center, I want to make sure I drop these two potatoes off as quickly as possible so that way I can get the reload started. Dropped right in between the center of those two big buildings, and we're focusing on the human and the ME-410. There might be some light fighters on my 6, but I am in maneuvering combat, mitigating how much incoming fire I'm going to take. Why did I go for the heavy instead of one of these light defense aircraft? Because he's going to be worth 60 points in this zone, while that aircraft is only worth 40. Was enough for us to be able to flip the zone. I am taking a few pot shots here at this Key 102, and he is heading towards the airfield. I'm hoping that if we can get enough damage on this aircraft, it might be able to contribute towards some of the capture, as we are ticking down to the last 7 seconds of the lockout of this site. I am just trying to fire in combination with this heavy aircraft that's sitting next to me, but I don't want to run into him, so we're going to kind of do an up and over of that aircraft. And by killing that aircraft in the zone, there's those 60 points we're looking for and nearly half of the capture points required to be able to grab the airfield. But it looks like we lost the Key 102 to a human in the Spit 9. This is kind of my initial indication that, hey, they've got a specialized Spitfire who's going to be dedicating a lot of effort at the airfield, so I'm no longer going to be hanging out at the airfield any longer. I should probably start heading towards the mine to be able to assist our bombers and ground attackers, because now there'll be something to intercept. We did have a bit of a visual glitch there. Some of you may have experienced this where you spawn in and you're actually in the other player's aircraft or another aircraft on your team. If you hit the enter button twice, it'll actually push you back into your airframe if you ever run into that. So we are gunning it towards the mining plant. Unfortunately, we did lose a player over in the garrison, so we're still unable to pick up our garrison, and the enemy is full force into the command center, most likely led by the ME-410, while the Spitfire continues to effectively defend his territory and possibly might be a contributor to that command center. So right now we're down 2 zones. We do have a bomber flight inbound, however, and they're relatively untouched, and there's nobody dying in the airfield right now. So they should be able to pick up that zone through simple drops of their munitions. Now, the reason I'm not dropping my bombs right now is that if I drop my bombs and I simply damage a site, one of these 2 bomber aircraft will have an easy grab. So I figured my best bet is to kill an enemy aircraft in the zone, trying to get 60 points back for this site. We are up right on the edge of our altitude performance, but the nice thing about the Russian bombers is that they actually operate a little bit lower, so we can get those guns on target. We have undone some of their capture here, and I decided the best bet is going to be diving down on a ground attack aircraft, because not only is it going to be back inside my altitude envelope, but it's already injured, and it is just going to be a tier 6 aircraft versus my tier 7, so a little bit of an easier grab. We do have a bot-controlled P-47 Bravo. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be able to get all of the center structure here, so we are going to be able to take out that aircraft and finish off the capture. As predicted, the bombers were able to pick up the airfield, and now we have the mines. So we do have 2 fairly important sites. We are also trying to take out the IL-10 just because I don't want it to be flying. Oh, he put the fire out. Oh, that sucks. We have to come back around. I do remember that being a little bit frustrating. And we need a little bit of tail gunner fire possibly. Nope, we managed to mitigate that as well. I do see a bot-controlled Spitfire, but I'm not too worried about it. He is chasing a ground attacker that's leaving the area, and he wasn't at full health, so we might actually die to the tail gunner potentially. I'm going to make my way over to this garrison, but they just picked it up, so that was a bit of a wasted effort and a loss of time. I really don't have much I can do here. There might be a PE2 coming in as well, but defending isn't capturing, and I know that that's not going to be the best move for me. I'm really hesitant to go back in the middle because, again, there is going to be a specialized Spitfire over there, and I know I'm not going to be able to compete in a turning engagement with that aircraft. So rather than going there, I decide that I'm going to go after this bomber. Maybe in hindsight, I should have made the effort, taken the risk, and hopefully moved with a bit more of my team and F2'd the airfield as an important site to go towards, as an avenue to get over to the command center later. Instead, I decide to push the envelope of my aircraft, and I do manage to take out both bombers, but there is a bomber flight inbound, and while we could theoretically stop the bomber flight, it's kind of a foregone conclusion that the command center is going to fall, and the chances for me to single-handedly stop a bomber flight are really low. So that's a prime example of how I could counter a Spitfire, right? I could just get guns on early and take that aircraft out. We drop one potato right there. This other potato might not be enough to be able to get the zone or get that section of ground targets, but at this point I'm happy just to be doing any damage at all. And looks like the defense aircraft rammed us. This section of ground target, I did damage it mostly, and we were able to finish it off with the guns. And we do have a defense aircraft vectored on my position, so we're able to get the guns on and eventually kill the aircraft and get the zone. There we go. So we're up to 3 zones, and we also have the mine still. But like I said before, we're pretty much destined to lose it at this point. So rather than defending that, I start to contemplate heading towards the airfield again, and I do see the Spitfire. But one of the things I can already tell you that I'm making a mistake on is that I'm not getting enough altitude if I'm going to head into that zone. And here, I clearly changed my mind. So rather than gaining the altitude and trying to go towards the airfield, I'm going towards a zone I know is already forfeit. Now, heat of the battle being what it is, I should have known that this was going to be an issue. I'm kind of hopeful that my human down low might be able to kill one of the ground attack aircraft, but it doesn't look like that's going to come to fruition. We are still trying to kill this PE2 M82, but what's that even going to do? Because as it stands right now, we can see that there's a bomber flight that's going to be here most likely before we're able to tick over for this last 27 seconds anyways. So now I've killed this bomber, we know he's not coming back anymore, so now what? I'm thinking there might be an opportunity to kill some of these ground targets after the timer subsides and be able to flip this zone again. So I decided to go after the lower hit point, lower tiered aircraft and get as much damage in as I can. And I do see that there is going to be a damaged tier 7 ground attacker as well. And we might be able to get some of the capture points off of him as well. We're trying to hit him with the guns, but we're so close that I actually need to angle myself properly in order to get those guns on target. But we are taking a bit of flak right now, and we're at 13 hit points. So now we're trying to flip a zone single-handedly with 2 bombs, and there's just not enough firepower coming out of this aircraft to be able to do this. If this was a garrison, then we'd be able to help out quite a bit, but not necessarily to flip this all on our own. And at this point, we already know that we don't have enough time to be able to get this to tick over to give us that advantage we're looking for. I am putting some of the forward firepower into these ground targets in order to try and flip this just through sheer damage, but look how long this is taking. How much time am I wasting here when I could have ventured over to the airfield and helped out a little bit more? We still have a bomb left as well, and I could have been reloading this whole time as well. Even if I wasn't going to be able to destroy everything in a single pass, it would have been better to have just dropped all my munitions, even if it was a bad drop, just to get that reload cycle started again. We may have done fairly well for ourselves picking up a Lambert medal here, but At the end, we still have a loss, and that loss could easily be pinpointed to the moment that I decided to go back to the mine to maintain defense instead of heading towards the airfield, because the mine was already a lost cause. But again, I'm going into the airfield and I'm not at max altitude and I'm not at full boost pool, so I'm going into this sector relatively unprepared or in a bad position to begin with. And we may do fairly well here to be able to get some kills and stuff, but it's a little bit too little too late at this point. Because while I am getting these kills and I potentially can pick up this airfield, look at the score. What good am I really doing at this stage? Because I could have been doing this earlier. And there we go, ticking over the last 2 points, and this match is a loss. Albeit a relatively close match. I did enjoy the battle. I was happy with the results that I had, with the exception of the D word happening up top here, but I think it's important to go back and reevaluate your own matches and kind of determine where you made your mistakes. That way you can try and be better next time. And that's something that I think is going to stick with me, is that I had a fear of the Spitfire, which is a little bit disappointing. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at this battle, evaluating where my weaknesses were, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.